last week, but how are you continuing to grow into the center position?
The main thing is just getting the guys around me comfortable and, just being that voice for not only the offensive line, but, the whole offense. Because, like I said, I start the playoff. I got to get the ball to the quarterback. Just getting the guys in and out of the huddle, just bringing some juice. That's the main thing that, you got to bring when you're in the middle.
And what was the biggest adjustment to just learning how to snap the ball consistently?
Well, not too hard, just making sure you keep your wrist tight, and not floating it back there and getting it out all the whack. But not that big of a deal. Just second nature for real.
Ben?
What were the biggest lessons from the start of last season, kind of the setback of getting into the lineup and then not being in the lineup anymore? What were the biggest lessons? What were the things you kind of took from that experience?
So, like I said, I've never been hurt before, and getting hurt, you can. It's always Coach Muschamp always talk about how you respond. So, I couldn't just slump around, be soaking around. The game's going to continue to go on. So, I had to, like I said, get the guys around me, just be that energy. Just be that source of hope. Tell them I'm here for them, even though I'm not out there with them. I'm still right there beside them because I'm getting lit every time they get a pancake. So just the main thing is just bringing the guys around me up. That's the main thing. When you're hurt, you just got to make sure everybody else is okay. Because you might not be okay, but as long as everybody else is, that's fine.
Mike Kuba?
Eric, I'm sure it's not easy. You can go on and on about this, but what are some of the things that you learned from a guy like Donnell Staley the last couple of years?
Oh, man. Donnell, man, he's great. Just being that, I wouldn't even say he's a big brother, just like a father figure. I mean, he kind of got everybody when you first got here, he's that guy, he shows you the ropes, he shows you how to play O-line, he shows you how to bring the intensity, what Coach Wolf wants in the O-line room. And like I said, with guys like Donnell, Zach, Dennis, they brought that tenacity every play. So, that's what we want to bring, tenacity every play.
Taylor?
Yeah, Eric, I guess kind of you mentioned bringing some juice. I'm just curious, what does it take and how do you bring juice? What all goes into being kind of that vocal leader on the offensive line?
Well, like Coach Muschamp said, we got to be a self-starter this year. And, you just gotta find it within, and everybody around you might not have it. I might see people's faces; they might be looking down, so they looking to me. So if I look down, then it's gonna be a bad day for the offense. So pretty much just keeping a smile on my face, being that jovial guy that everybody knows that I am. So just being a fun guy, but when it's time to turn it on, it's time to turn it on. So
Dick Cox?
With a new offensive scheme, has it changed the blocking schemes or what you people on the offensive line have to do very much?
No, it actually complements, our skill sets. So we're not just pounding it up the middle every time. We got every play that we have complements another play. So just the main thing about us with this offensive line and this new Bobo scheme is just catering to us, so it's really offensive line friendly, and we just got to use our skill sets to get in the right place and just execute the plays that Bobo has called.
Josh Kendall?
Hey, Eric. I know that you've played virtually every position on the line, and Coach Muschamp and Coach Bobo have talked about need more consistency at tackle. Have you done anything to try to counsel those guys who are trying to play that second tackle spot? And if so, what have you said to them?
Well, we got about 4 or 5 guys that can play that the other right or left tackle, depending on whoever lines up with Dylan. And the main thing about it is just telling them. I'm just telling them to have fun. I mean, you can't go out there thinking too much. If you're thinking too much, then your mind's gonna be somewhere else. If you're just having fun, you're not worried about mistakes. So that's the main thing, just cutting down on mistakes and just having fun and just going out there and knowing what you got to do and execute.
David?
Back to the snaps, Eric. Were there a few maybe during that first week of camp where you might have thrown one over one of the QB's head, had a couple of snaps you'd like to have back?
Well, not really. I mean, when we was doing like OTA type work, we had a towel. So I'd probably say like my first one back, it probably, I thought I still had a towel down there, but I had to remember, I got a football now. So nothing too crazy.
Ben?
Coach Muschamp said that you kind of settled into that starting job a couple weeks into camp. Did you kind of did he pull you aside and kind of talk to you about it? Did you get a sense that you were sort of settling into that spot? When did it kind of click that, oh, I'm probably going to be the starter this season?
Like Coach Muschamp and Coach Wolf, they say, the depth chart is steady changing. So whatever whatever the circumstances is that day of practice, I just come in prepared, set my feet down and just go straight forward. If I'm at right guard one day, I'm at right guard. If I'm at center, I'm at center. If I'm at tackle, I'm at tackle. It's just about your approach. So just come in every day with the right approach and, don't worry about, the depth chart or nothing like that.
Colin?
Eric, I guess what's it like having Rhodey back on the offensive line, and what can he bring to this group once he's back in football shape and kind of full go?
Man, Rhodes, man. I could talk all day about Jordan Rhodes. Jordan Rhodes is a monster. Like I said, he opted out for he was out for a month. He came back to practice like he was still doing summer workouts. He came back, he's an animal. That's Jordan Rhodes. He's a freak of nature, and he's just a mismatch. Wherever you plug him in on the O-line, he's a mismatch. He's just that kind of guy. He's gonna grind it out. He's gonna make sure when he gets his hands on you, he ain't getting off. So,
Mike Uva? Mike Uva?
Eric Ryan's mentioned that being able to have a huddle and being able to just the pre-snap stuff. He said he feels just more comfortable with this offense. As an offensive lineman, what can this offense do in comparison to some of the offensive systems that you guys have played in the last couple of years? Being able to huddle up and some of that pre-snap stuff, how can it make you feel more comfortable?
Well, we was just talking about this as an offensive line. Whenever we do go fast, it's time to go fast. But just having that huddle and, just having everybody around you, all 10 guys around you in that huddle, it's like, we all looking at each other and it's like, all right, let's go. So now I'm talking to the receivers like, all right, now let's go. It's third down. Let's get a play. We gonna protect for y'all. And then we might look at the running backs like, all right, let's punch it in right here. So just having that huddle, we can talk to the guys and just make sure that everybody is right mentally before we step up there before the snap.
Hale?
Hey, going back to Rhodes real quick, what about him makes him a good candidate, and maybe in your eyes, as a guy who could play that right tackle spot? Because Muschamp told us last night that he's been getting some work there and is going to get a look this week. He's a massive
human being. He's like I said, once he gets his arms on you, it's gonna be pretty hard to get him off, and it's gonna be pretty hard to go through him, and it's gonna be pretty hard to go around him. So it's like I said, anywhere that you plug in Rhodes, he's just that type of guy. He's a mauler. So anywhere that you plug him in, he's gonna be just an excellent candidate for any position.
What does the guy need to have? Like, what are some of the physical characteristics, traits he's got to have to be able to hold up outside of tackle?
I don't think it's not really about physical. It's however Rhodes come into the building that day, that's what you get. It's not physical with Rhodes. Just making sure that mentally from him going to guard to tackle, that I can help him be comfortable by just calling out the plays like, hey, Rhodes, you might have to go here right play. You might have to go right here. So just keeping that bug in his ear, just making him feel comfortable out there.
Dick Cox?
Having coached offensive line, I know it takes a special person to play that position, because the only time people know your names when you get a penalty or something like that. But just talk a little bit about your mental approach to playing the position offensive line. That's where the games are won, lost.
Yeah, like I said, like you said, the only time your name's called is if you give up a sack or a holding call. So really the main thing about playing O-line is just your approach, having fun, you gotta want to knock somebody back. That's the main thing with offensive line, and that's what we got in this room right now. We got people that want to knock people down, want to push people back, want to get excited when the running backs and the wide receivers in the end zone. We talk about who's gonna be the first one to the end zone. You gotta have fun when you're playing offensive line. You can't really be thinking too much, and that's the main thing that I'm trying to bring to the offensive line this year. Just having fun, and you see it because everybody's moving around faster, and everybody's just excited to come to practice every day.
John Del Bianco?
Eric, what are your impressions of the interior defensive linemen through 4 weeks of camp?
Oh, you got you got KT, Jabari, Rick, and Zach. You got those 4 guys right there, just pressuring us to be better every day. I mean, one play they might get us, the other play we might get them, but it's just a competition. The main thing that Coach Rocker brings to the D line, he just brings them to want to play fast, continue to block, so continue to rush the passer. So that helps us, to continue to block longer. Because, not every time a D lineman might rush, but these D linemen, they keep on rushing, so they keep us on our toes.
Who's your favorite matchup day to day?
All of them. Great matchups every day. It doesn't matter who is in front of us, you're going to get their best.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
There you go. Y'all have a good day.